We are going live. Okay. Hmm. Good. Nice to see you. Okay, now I'm going to mute everyone. We can interact after we finish the reading session. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. All right. The Science of Interconnectivity, Exploring the Human-Earth Connection. A research paper by Rollin McCarthy and Annette DeHale. And we did the last week reading of half of the chapter of the paper. We continue now. So if you want to, it'll be nice. You can go to the YouTube channel and you can see the last week's reading. And we continue from where we left last week. We left at central GCI hypothesis. And so they are talking about the general hypothesis, GCI hypothesis guide on of the collaborative research. It says that human and animal health, cognitive functions, emotions, and behavior are affected by solar activity and planetary geomagnetic fields. The Earth's magnetic fields are carriers of biologically relevant information that connects all living systems. Each individual affects the global information field. That means um, when you think something, or even if or you say something, you're affecting the global information field. That's how powerful we are. And this system, biologically relevant information system, connects all living systems. A large number of people creating heart-centered states of care, love, and compassion will generate a more coherent field environment and information that can benefit others and help offset the current planetary wide discord and incoherence. This more coherent information can be encoded within the Earth's geomagnetic fields, which act as carrier waves of this physiologically patterned and relevant information. So, the more we do meditations, the more we talk about and care for others and have more love and compassion. So, like we studied in one of the reading classes, how to build up the virtues in humans. And eventually, as you build up the virtues, what is the end result is the compassion. And so, the more we work with that, the more it benefits others and it helps offset the current planetary wide discord which we are seeing. Um, so we know what's happening in the world, everywhere in the world, the wars, um, the distortment which is happening with their emotional minds and bodies. So the more we stay, so everyone, it matters a lot that your contribution matters a lot, what you think And if you have that space to work with, then it is definitely a huge carrier which waves of this psychological, physiological patterned and relevant information matters. Embedded within the above hypothesis is a related hypothesis. The Oh, I'm sorry, I think we have already read through this. No, we will read through this. It's good. Embedded within the above hypothesis is a related hypothesis that the human emotions and the consciousness interact with and encode information in the geomagnetic field. Um, See, scientifically, it's not been proved. It's only they are talking still about the hypothesis, or that the magnetic field is it is the human emotions and the consciousness interacts. But there is a very strong for with people who are into meditations, people who are connected to the fields energetically, they know that awareness is there, that it exists, where there might not be any scientific proofs. But according to me, the moment when the too many coincidences start to happen, or there are too many intuitions, that is the connection we are talking about, which is at in the field, in out there in the space. Within this field, information can be communicated non-locally between people at the subconscious level, which in fact links all living systems and influences the collective consciousness. Thus, we suggest a feedback loop exists between all human beings and Earth's energetic systems. It is further proposed that when coherently aligned, individuals intentionally create physiologically coherent magnetic fields. They're able to more effectively resonate with and encode information in the planetary magnetic fields. This information can positively affect all living systems within the field environment and help increase the collective consciousness. Okay, the next topic is global coherence monitoring system. A global network of 12 ultra-sensitive magnetic field detectors is being installed strategically around the planet. These sensors will advance our investigation of the interactions between solar activity and the Earth's geomagnetic field environment and human interconnectivity, health and behaviors. As of March 2016, 7 global coherence monitoring systems, GCMS, had been funded and 6 had been installed. These are located in the American state of California, Canada, New Zealand, Saudi Arabia, Lithuania, and South Africa. The GCMS system is a global network of GPS time-stamped detectors designed to continually measure magnetic signals that occur in the same range as human physiological frequencies, such as those of the human brain and the cardiovascular systems. Each site includes ultra-sensitive magnetic field detectors specifically designed to measure the magnetic resonance in the Earth's ionosphere cavity, as well as resonances that are generated by the vibrations of the Earth's geomagnetic field lines and ultra-low frequencies that occur in the Earth's magnetic field. Now, each monitoring site detects the local time-varying magnetic field strengths and over a relatively wide frequency range. while maintaining a flat frequency response. The data acquisition infrastructure captures, stamps with time and global positioning data, and transmits the data to a common server. Each magnometer is sampled at a rate of 130 Hz, which allows resolution of frequencies up to 65 Hz. In addition, each site has a random number generator, which is called the RNG, and that is a part of the Global Consciousness Project GCP network, which is described later. The monitoring system tracks changes in geomagnetic activity caused by solar storms, changes in solar wind speed, disruption of the Schumann resonance, and potentially the signatures of major global events that have a strong emotional response component. A growing body of data suggests that changes in ionospheric activity can occur before large earthquakes. GCMS can detect these changes. There are several networks of ground-based flux gates and other types of magnometers around the world that measure the strength of the Earth's magnetic field and the geomagnetic disturbances, as well as several space weather satellites. The data from those, however, is typically only sampled at hourly or 1 minute intervals and cannot measure the resonant frequencies occurring in the Earth's magnetic fields. The GCMS adds the capacity to measure the resonant frequencies globally, a component that has been missing and is required if we are to better understand how people and animals are affected by the rhythms and the resonant frequencies in Earth's magnetic fields. This enables us and other researchers to better understand the interconnections between solar and other external forces on the planetary magnetic field movement. The network is providing a significant research tool to explore not only the effects of solar and geomagnetic disturbances on human health and consciousness, but also the interconnectivity of human beings with each other and with the Earth's magnetic field environment. We make our data freely available to other research groups who wish to explore how it may be utilized to study interconnectedness, solar and geomagnetic interactions, and other events, and to predict earthquakes. Earth's energetic systems and human health and behavior. In this section, we will discuss data that support the first hypothesis that human and animal health, cognitive functions, emotions, and behaviors are affected by solar activity and the planetary geomagnetic fields. So, historically, many cultures believed their collective behavior could be influenced by the sun and the other external cycles and influences. This belief has proven to be true on a larger societal scale. Increased violence, crime rates, social unrest, revolutions, and frequency of the terrorist attacks have been linked to the solar cycle and the resulting disturbances in the geomagnetic field. The first scientific evidence of this belief was provided by the Russian scientist Alexander, well, I can't pronounce his next name, uh, Shejevsky, okay, who noticed that more severe battles in World War One occurred during the peak sunspot periods. He then conducted a thorough study of the global human history dating back to 1749, which he compared to the solar cycles over the same time period until 1926. The solar activity not only has been associated with social unrest, but also with the periods of greatest human flourishing, including clear spurts of innovation and creativity in architecture, arts, and science, as well as periods of positive social changes. During periods of increased solar activity, which peaks every 10 to 11 years, the sun emits increased ultraviolet UV energy and solar radio flux, which is measured by the 2.8 gigahertz signal radiated by the sun. Although the details of the physiological mechanisms in humans and animals are not fully understood yet, it is apparent that increase in these solar and magnetic energy influxes are utilized as source of energy. This is important because when we do not have the maturity and ability to self regulate ourselves in day to day life, to use the self regulate, to use the energy influxes wisely, they lead to increased violence, war, accidents, and social unrest. Hmm. So we need to build up the self-regulatory practices so that we can use these energy influences wisely. We can learn from past responses, however, and consciously choose new ways of navigating these energy influxes, including the peak solar activity periods, to create periods of human flourishing and humanitarian advances. So the same energy flexes can be used for this either ways. Choices to be made, practices to be done. Now, this suggests that when outdated structures not serving humanity collapse, an opportunity arises for them to be replaced with more suitable and sustainable models. At times of such pertinent energy influence, we have the greatest opportunity to instate positive change in our world by more consciously becoming self responsible in navigating energy influxes and using this additional energy to create periods of human flourishing. Positive change can affect political, economic, medical, and educational systems, as well as relationships of people at home, work, and in their communities. And we are seeing solar flares in this past, I think, almost three 3 months odd, and very strong planetary movements. And the Schumann resonance is just flaring up. It's a beautiful time to sit down and to work with and do the energy work to increase the your levels of or our levels of consciousness with various practices. Perfect times, according to me. Yeah. So geomagnetic disturbances. Not only are human physiological rhythms and global human behavior synchronized with solar and geomagnetic activity, but disruptions in these fields can create adverse effects on human health and behavior. Well, recently we have seen how many governments have fallen or have been pulled down. Um, I think I can probably say Nepal, France, and I think two or three more things have happened up globally. So the human body is designed to adapt to daily and seasonal climatic and geomagnetic variations. But environmental factors like geomagnetic storms can alter the human hormone balance of the body, such as the melatonin and the serotonin balance. These factors affect many physiological functions, including blood pressure, breathing, immune system, reproductive, cardiac, and neurological process. Geomagnetic disturbances are associated with significant increase in hospital admissions for depression, mental disorders, psychiatric issues, suicide attempts, homicides, and traffic accidents. Birth rates tend to drop, mortality rates increase, and migraines attacks can be triggered during periods of increased solar and geomagnetic activity. Disturbances in geomagnetic activity can exacerbate existing diseases and are correlated with significant increases in the incidence of my, myocardial infarction and death, cardiovascular disease, and death in epileptics. In addition, significant changes in blood pressure, blood flow, aggregation, and coagulation, cardiac, ra- the rhythms, and the heart rate variability have been found. It is noteworthy that a large number of studies have found significant associations between magnetic storms and decreased HRV. The measurement of beat to beat changes in the heart rate, indicating a possible mechanism linking geomagnetic activity with increased incidence of coronary diseases and myocardial infarction. Several studies that analyzed week-long recordings found a 25% reduction in the very low frequency rhythm during magnetically disturbed days compared to the quiet days. The low frequency rhythms were also significantly reduced, but the high frequency rhythms were not. Lower activity or power in the VLF rhythm is strongly associated with increased health risk, while the vaguely mediated HF rhythm is not as predictive, although lower activity in the HF rhythm is associated with decreased capacity to self regulate thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. In order to further investigate the potential correlations between solar and magnetic factors and HRV, we undertook a collaborative study spanning a 5-month period with Dr. AI. Abdullah Gader, Director of Research for Eastern Province, Saudi Arabia. A total of 969,000, no, 96,024 HRV recordings were obtained from a group of 16 women. HRV data was collected 24 hours per day, 3 consecutive days each week over a 5-month period using ambulatory HRV recorders between March and August of 2012. The HRV measures assessed where the measures that were assessed were the interbeat interval IBI, SDNN, RMSSD, total power VLF, LF, and the HF power, and the LF HF ratio. The solar activity and the magnetic variables were solar wind speed with the KP and the AP index, PCN, sunspot number, solar radio flux, and the cosmic rays, the Schumann resonance power, and the ULF power of the time varying magnetic field data collected at the GCI sensor sites in California and Saudi Arabia. The mean and the standard deviations of the geomagnetic activity were compounded hourly. The large increase in the ST that happened on July 14th, which resulted under coronal mass ejection that hit the Earth's magnetic field at approximately 1800 LT that day. So there's a lot of data which they are talking about. The Kykarian effects were removed from both environmental and HRV variables. For each of the 16 study participants, a correlation matrix was calculated between each environment and HRV variable. The study strongly confirms that daily autonomic nervous system activity, as reflected by the HRV measures, is affected generally by changes in solar and geomagnetic activity rather than only the periods of magnetic disturbances. All of the HRV with measures except the IBIs were negatively correlated with solar wind speed, and the LF and the HF power were negatively correlated with the magnetic field mean data from the Saudi Arabia sensor site, but not the California sensor site, suggesting that local measurements are important. So there's a lot of data which they are sharing. Let's go to the, yes, the review of the research literature on health effects of geomagnetic disturbances. They have a greater effect on humans at higher geomagnetic latitudes. Unusually high values of geomagnetic activity have an effect on human cardiovascular health. Unusually low values of geomagnetic activity have an effect on human cardiovascular health. Unusually low values of geomagnetic activity seem to have effect on human health. Only 10 to 15% of people in areas studied are significantly affected by the geomagnetic activity. HRV is negatively correlated with geomagnetic activity. So when they collected the subgrouping of the participants and 6 days each week over a 6-month period, they found the survey contained 6 scales: positive effect, well-being, anxiety, confusion, fatigue, and physical symptoms. And this was subjected to correlation analysis with a number of planetary solar activity variables, such as the solar wind, solar activity, um, mm, speed, the magnetic field, the plasma data, the measures of the energetic protons, solar flex, and the geomagnetic activity indices. There's a lot of data here. Okay, let me go through that. So when the solar wind speed increased and the geomagnetic field was disturbed, the levels of fatigue, anxiety, and mental confusion increased. And there were some very interesting unexpected findings that when the solar radio flux index was positively correlated with reduced flux fatigue and improved positive effects, indicating they are mechanisms that improve human well-being, that which they are not able to fully understand. Interesting. So remember, it's a research paper, and this was done um, quite a few years ago. Hmm. Interesting. So they took data from the study from Saudi Arabia. It mentioned earlier, it is that the Earth's magnetic field was calmer. Study participants felt better. They were more mentally and emotionally stable and had higher levels of HRV. The same observations made for increased activity in the resonant frequencies and the solar radio flux. So we are actually going through very increased resonant frequency time as of now. You should probably go and look for the Schumann frequencies, which are at their peaks, and our practices actually affect that, and it is affecting. So it is a lot more calmer, stable, and yeah. But when this magnetic field was disturbed because of the solar flares and had low power in the resonant frequencies. But now we are facing, during the same high magnetic field and high solar flares, what we are facing now is the higher resonant frequencies. It was that the participants' HRV was lower and their emotional well being and mental clarity was adversely affected. But now it's at the peak. So the interactions between the human brain and the Schumann resonance. Hmm. This. So the EEG was measured and obtained from electrodes located over the surface of the scalp to measure the variations in the electrical currents which were generated by the 20 billion to 25 billion neurons in the human brain. And the voltages measured with the EEG are within the microvolt range, while the corresponding magnetic field was produced by the brain, and it was measured in the 1 to 2 Tesla range. So in the mid 1950s, Winfried Otto Schumann, under whose names the Schumann frequencies are named, and Herbert Cohen first measured the frequencies that were consistent with the mathematical model that predicted an Earth ionospheric resonance. The lowest frequency, the Schumann resonance SR, as they are now called, is approximately 7.83 hertz, and there is a daily variation happening. And the other frequencies, which are like 14, 20, 26, 33, 39, 45 hertz. And when they overlap with the 8 to 12 hertz beta and 12 to 30 hertz and gamma, 30 to 100 hertz brain waves. The similarity of the electrical components of the time varying voltages which are produced by the brain EEG with the SRs was recognized early on. SRs are the Schumann resonances. And the ability of the EEG rhythm to become synchronous with the SR activity was observed by Cohen, because the brain is a very sensitive electromagnetic organ, and it changes in the geomagnetic activity, and SR intensities appear to alter brainwave and the hormone responses. So, very interestingly, during the retreat, we are going to experience these resonances through a device which a very good friend of ours is doing. and he is going to play the various frequencies um, through this device, crystal device, which is being made handmade with the um, the Tesla coils and the copper and the gold, and a very beautiful gadget. It's not a gadget; made out of crystal. So we're going to experience that. That how the and we are in a very high electromagnetic area, and we are going to work with this resonance, and we're going to see, you're going to experience how it is affecting the brain waves, and how that those brain waves, the EEG, actually affects our heart and the rest of the body. It's going to be a very beautiful experience. So we are going to experience this here. And so so as these frequencies were in the resonances and the EEG were monitored between 6 to 16 hertz simultaneously over a 6-week period. Um, and During the daily cycle, individuals studied showed variations in the EEG similar to the changes in the SR, and the highest the correlations between the brain rhythms and the SRs was during the periods of higher solar and magnetic activity. Fantastic. Very nice. So, Michael Persinger, the cognitive neuroscience researcher and professor at the Laurentian University in Ontario, and his colleagues extensively studied the EEG activity and the Schumann resonance in real time. The data suggests that a transfer of information can take place between the magnetic fields of Earth and the human brains. They have shown that many of these frequencies, the SR frequencies, can be seen clearly in the spectral profiles of most human brain activity, which demonstrates that amplitudes of the electric and the magnetic fields in the human EEG activity are similar to those of the SR, the Schumann frequencies. And they show that the spectral power within the quantitative uh, these are too long terminologies. Okay, let me try that. Electroencephalographic profiles of men and women displayed repeated transit periods of coherence, that is the synchronization with the first three resonant frequencies of the SR in real time. Their data indicates the maximum coherence with the SR takes place within the right hemisphere near the temporal parietal region during the periods of approximately 300 milliseconds that occur between every 30 seconds. This suggests that under certain conditions, interactive information processing can occur between human brains and the Earth's electromagnetic fields, and that variables affecting the Schumann parameters, such as solar wind, could affect brain activity, including modifications of cognition and dream related memory consolidation. Hmm. The altered EEG rhythms in response to changing the magnetic fields have been observed by Belov et al. With low frequency magnetic oscillations and having a very sedative effect. Oh, I have experienced that. It just kind of like really takes the body to this very sedative, meditative space where everything settles down and you become hyper sensitive, and you can access various, if you are with your practices, you can access various portals of information. Okay. The next topic is interactions between the cardiovascular system and the field line resonances. So there are wide variety of magnetic waves occurring on the Earth's magnetosphere, which are which are processed differently inside the magnetosphere and by the solar wind. The appearance of these magnetic waves depends on conditions in the solar wind and in the magnetosphere. Field line resonances are most common source of ultra low frequency wave energy measured on the ground and exhibit the largest wave amplitudes compared to the other waves happening in the magnetosphere. Hmm. There is still a lot more. There's a lot more. Okay. Well, we will probably continue this next Friday. What I would like to know is if you have any questions, any doubts, or would you like to share something? Um, yeah, you can unmute yourself one by one. And if you would like to share or say something, you can.
Yeah, namaste.
Yes, Vinay. Yes.
Yeah. So I haven't heard the first part of the article, but from what I gather in today's reading is the impact of uh, the sun on humanity in general and a human being in particular. Mm, that's what I gather from the discussion. There's a lot of data around how the impacts are,
Hmm.
solar flares, 11-year
Hmm.
cycles, especially
Hmm.
historical relevance of it. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
I know that the moon has its impact because the moon affects our gravity in terms
Hmm.
of the tides are affected by the
Hmm.
moon's waxing and waning. But this is interesting to note that the sun has solar flares. So while you were reading, I was also checking about what was going on 11-year cycle and the solar flares. I
Hmm.
think, but my question is uh, the practice of the Qigong or Tai Chi, does it talk about these things, like how these natural cycles affect human beings?
Um, it does, um, but we don't radically touch that when we are practicing because a practice is a practice. So the whole idea of getting into a little bit of theory and reading and getting the other half is exactly this, that you become aware that whatever practices that we are doing are actually connected to the sun, the moon, the stars, and the planets, and they affect us. So Taoism is based on that. So the Taoist practices are based on that. Yes, but we don't mention that when we are practicing because it's a very physical practice. But the effect is a very energetic effect on us and on the when I said welcome to the Chi family, we are talking about energy and we are talking about the various practitioners who are energetically connected and we are We are all so beautifully connected because of these practices that it is actually known in our fields that we have been doing healing practices, chi healing classes and sessions all over the world to have to integrate and to increase the collective consciousness so that it moves towards peace and not wars, towards balancing the human mind and the system, and to bring them towards closer to the to higher selves and the higher consciousness.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Anyone else? Any questions? Nagma, would you like to share? Because Nagma has been using a beautiful resonator and amplifier, which is into which the Schumann frequencies have been fed. And she is a practitioner for quite a few years now, and how uh, being a part uh, of these frequencies and the solar flares and the practices and um, being in tune with the Schumann frequencies, how it has actively, um, I think, affected her state of day to day life, her mental well being, her physical well being, her emotional well being. Is it possible, Nagma, if you would like to share?
Yes,
Actually, they
yes,
are
sure, sure.
traveling. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So you might hear honks. Also, let me know if it's audible. You
Yes,
can hear me?
yes, you are absolutely clear. Yes, we
Okay.
can all hear you. Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think the resonator was very new for me a few months ago. And the first time when I just was before I acquired it, it was more like really wanted to see how it works. But it's very amazing to see that when it plays those frequencies, and if it's heart frequency or if it's a certain other frequencies, you will feel that vibration in that part of your body. Like for me, someone was playing and didn't show me what frequency they are playing, and I felt that it is moving my heart. And he was saying, what did you feel? So my response was, it is moving my heart, so I can feel the rotation around it. But yeah, in short, if I have to share my experience, it does connects with you. Like for example, some of those days when we are all working and it's a long day or it's tiring, I just hold that crystal before I just sit, and it just takes it all in. It just brings that calmness and that balance just by holding it in your with your palms, just wrapping around. It's like a big candle you can visualize, and when you put your palms around it, you will start feeling it, that it just connects to you, and it helps you to calm down. And it does makes a difference. Even if it's far away at one corner of the house, it does travels. So I'm, like Sonika mentioned, it's also, I'm observing how it is also opening space for what I need, but also letting go of stuff which I'm not needing, including people. So even people who are not needed in my journey also slowly starts disappearing in a way too. But yeah, it is, in brief, what I would like to say, for me it was, I always use the term magic, but it is that the magic is just around, and I'm trying to slowly, you see it, that it is real. The ancients used to always believe in
Mm,
magic, but it's there. So I am starting to experience it.
mm,
So I think once you experience, then you will feel it.
mm,
But yeah, I'm really exploring the resonator a bit more.
mm. Yes, thank you, Nagma. So the whole point is that during these times of high frequencies, and there is a lot of stuff which is happening in everyone's lives in terms of flare-ups in their at their workspaces, flare-ups in their. I mean, if I let me, like I mentioned, uh, geopolitical stuff which has been happening. It's crazy. We know um, the what all has been happening at the weather, with the clouds bursts and the rains and the floods and the earthquakes, and the solar flares and these frequencies and the practices. It's like I said. So if not for these spaces, what have been held for Nagma, I think I think, can I say this, Nagma? This would have
Yes,
really
yes.
driven you
Go ahead,
mad.
please.
it
Please
would
go
have
ahead.
it would have really driven you mad. I mean, you just barely held on, right? Because it does flare up. The situations at work, at home, and mostly work, because that's the only area probably which is left for you. I guess you're overall pretty sorted. So
Yes,
yeah.
it's doing its magic, so it will
So
eventually happen.
yeah, it's doing its magic. So the frequencies work. Frequencies, the Schumann frequencies, they work beautifully. And in this, so, but anyways, we will experience this session in the retreat now. So it's good for people to feel those frequencies. Nice. Any other sharing? Your questions, if anyone has? None. Amazing. Interesting. Okay. So then we can close for the day. And so don't forget to miss the don't miss the next Friday. No, there is next Friday. Sorry, there will be no reading class because I will be in the retreat. I'm already into it. These girls are on the way. They're joining us. So there will be no book reading next Friday, but we stay connected. Okay. So I shall see you soon. You take care. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend ahead.
Thank you, man. Namaste.
All right. Namaste. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.